Welcome to For the Love of Books, Bees Books Edition, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hello, this is Pari.
And this is Jenny, and we're here to talk about Bees books.
So this week, the theme that Bee gave us was I Didn't See That Coming. And I'm really excited to talk about this week's books. So what books have you chosen, Jenny?
So I have chosen a book called Last One at the Party by Bethany Clift. It's not the book I started out with, but I'll tell you that in a wee second, because I'm interested to see what book you've chosen.
So the book I've chosen is called Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir.
Yes.
Muir?
Something.
M-U-I-R. I feel like it's a Scottish last name I'm butchering. I apologize
I
to
would
our
say Muir.
Scottish. Yes.
But I'm not saying that.
So I'm just going to say Tamsin and you can say
Muir.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking at the cover, and this is quite a scary cover to me.
It is, yes. It's
Okay.
not a book I would have picked up. But the reason that I picked up is because I've heard really good things about it. So I'm going to talk about actually what I don't like how the book is marketed in a bit. But I'll
Right.
tell you why I chose this before I get all the bad things out of the way. No. The reason that I chose this is because it's not the kind of thing I would usually pick up based on the cover, but also the genre. So it's science fiction and fantasy and horror and funny.
Everything.
Everything. And it's necromancers in space. And I don't read about necromancers, basically death people. And Gideon is from the sort of cult of bones kind of thing. So the ninth refers to the ninth house, which is the ninth planet, sort of. So there are 9 houses, and each one, I think, corresponds to a planet. The reason that I chose it for this theme is because it's such an unfamiliar world that I didn't see anything coming. So everything was new. So it starts off on the 9th planet, and we're seeing it through the eyes of Gideon. But she is it's this cold, dark planet that's really secretive and is not in touch with the other planets. So we're seeing it, like, she doesn't know what's going on, so we don't know what's going on as well. She obviously knows some things that are going on in her home planet. But we find this out through the book. And the book is basically, there's like a necromancer and their cavalier who is like their bodyguard, sort of, which Gideon is. 9 of them come to this planet, the first planet, and they have to engage in a series of trials to get some sort of thing that we don't know.
Okay.
So because we don't know the context, it's all new. So we don't know how the world works. When we read fantasy books or when we read science fiction, we sort of have a rough idea of how the world works, so we can make guesses based on that. In this, you're sort of thrust into the deep end of the pool, and which is why you don't see anything coming. Maybe cleverer people than me can see things coming, but I was just on the edge of my seat throughout because it's also a mystery.
Okay.
So sort of a little way through the book, dead bodies start piling up.
Okay.
And we don't know if the murderer is human or monstrous because they're all supernatural, right? They're all necromancers, so they all delve in fantasy, but there's stuff they don't know either, so it's a little bit like a locked room mystery. They're on this planet where they're cut off from the rest of everybody, and they're trying to figure out these trials, which is also solving puzzles, but then they're also trying to figure out what is this death thing causing. Yeah, so each house has different expertise in different kinds of necromancy. So the 9th house is bones, then some are spirits, and some are... And we find this out throughout the book. So there's no information that's given right at the start. So you have to be a really active reader.
Okay.
But it's a lot of fun. So I've made it sound like hard work, and I can see it on your face, Jenny, but it's quite a lot of fun.
And is it a standalone book, or is there going to be more?
No, excellent question. So it's not. It's a first in a trilogy.
I love a trilogy.
Yeah, I know. So it's called the Locked Tomb trilogy.
Okay.
And I immediately, as soon as I finished this, I've requested the second copy from wherever. I think it's in Motherwell, and it's making its way to Codebridge to us, and I'm really excited about it. But yes, so yeah.
Is the third one written yet?
Yes, it is.
Good,
And it's
good.
out. Yeah. So, so hopefully the second one will be just as fun. But it's really unlike any other book that I've read. And I read a lot.
Yes.
But I liked that. I liked that I was in this unfamiliar world, and I think it also depends on what time, sort of what mood you're in and the time in your life.
Absolutely.
Like there are some times that I wouldn't have been able to read this book because it requires a lot of work. But enough about my book. I'd love to know about your book.
Okay, so mine's, and I'm very interested in your book, and I am going to read it.
Oh.
Yes, immediately.
Well, hold that thought.
Oh, okay. So the book I chose is not the book I originally chose.
Okay.
The original book I chose was Moriarty by Anthony Horowitz.
Oh.
I'm working my way through his books at the moment, and they are fantastic. They are lots of mystery and things like that. But this one is about Moriarty, the baddie from the Sherlock Holmes books, and it's set just after him and Sherlock Holmes fall off the big waterfall.
Oh, yes.
And it's about how basically in London there's been a vacuum created because Moriarty's dead, and all these other kind of villains are trying to fill the gap. And you get 2/3 of the way through, and basically it turns on its head completely, and it is a genuine
Who done it?
Like, you're like, what? I literally had to go back 3 pages to see if I had missed something. It's one of those ones, and I don't want to spoil it by telling you what the thing was, but literally I was like totally shocked, like proper shocked.
I love
it's a
that.
proper, didn't see that coming. So that's what I originally chose. But then I finished this the other day, and I absolutely loved it. So like we were talking about before, you kind of, as a reader, you kind of have an idea of where a book is going usually. And this book is basically set November this year. Another pandemic comes. They've just got back on their feet after COVID, and this thing comes and basically wipes everybody out. There is no cure, there is no wearing masks, sanitising, anything, and it's called 6DM. Which basically means 6 days maximum. Once you get it, that's it. So everybody basically dies, apart from this woman who has a very bad hangover for a couple of days, and when she wakes up, basically, more people have died. But what I loved about it was she is just a woman like you or me. So she's not like a superhero or anything. She doesn't know how really to survive. Like she does what we would all do, like her husband passes away, and she kind of tries to deal with that, and then she goes to see her parents and they've gone and things like that, and it does get kind of gruesome at some stages. But she doesn't know how to survive, and I don't think I would.
I would be horrible. Like, every time, I don't know if your friends do this or I just have abnormal friends, but they keep saying, like, in an apocalypse, like in a post-apocalyptic world, which I think this one sounds like, whatever the apocalypse is, what would your duty be? Like, those sort of apocalypse preppers and things, and I'm like, I'm really good at telling stories to children, and I'm really friendly, so maybe I have no skills beyond that whatsoever.
And neither does she, and you can kind of relate to it. So at one point she just decides to go into a shop, and the good thing is all the shops have kind of basically left their doors open. There's no like pillaging going on and anything like that. These people are just,
everyone's dead.
And eventually the government basically gives out this pill that you can just go outside of a chemist and pick up, and basically it's a suicide pill. It just so she grabs a couple of packets of these, and I think in her head she's thinking, that's what I'm going to do, but she keeps chickening out because it's quite a big.
So it's not affected her.
No, so she has, and it never explains why. In the book it doesn't explain why. But at one point she decides, right, I'm going to go to the shop, I'm going to buy them, like get the most expensive, like caviar and, champagne and things like that. She goes to a big, like posh hotel, and of course all the rooms are empty because like COVID, all that kind of thing shut down just beforehand. So she has this whole hotel to herself, and the bath as big as your living room and all this kind of stuff, and she, enjoys it. And then like various things happen, she kind of thinks, what will I do? And she ends up travelling up to Scotland because she thinks that she's going to find somebody there. She thinks that maybe the further away from London you get, the less, it's going to affect people, but no.
Scottish dead bodies all around.
Yes, exactly. And she gets as far as Inverness and then kind of goes on with it. And then she comes back again. But you kind of think, right, this is going to have one of two endings. She's going to either find a bunch of people and, you know, go off and make the world populated again, or she is just going to, you know, die or whatever. And it doesn't have like a huge big twisty ending, but it wasn't either of those. It just kind of ends, and then there's like a wee bit that kind of, and I'm not going to tell you what that tells you, but it's like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting either, you know, yay, we're all together, or no, just not.
But were you okay with that? Do you like a good plot twist?
No, I liked it. I like an ending. I do like an ending in a story. And this did have an ending, although it's not the ending I was expecting. But I did also like the character, and you don't find out the character's name at all in it, because it's written from her point of view. And I think, it's the kind of stuff that I would do. It would be like, we'll go to this big hotel and we'll just kind of hang out here, and then we'll have a big bath.
Ooh, is that what... I think what I'd love to do is stay overnight in a museum or a library, which is a very nerdy thing to want to do.
No, there's a lovely bit in it where she decides to do all the London sites. She goes, right, I've lived in London, you know, and I've never done like the big museums and stuff. And she finds that a lot of people have went to the museums to die, basically. They've taken, there's one bit where it's obviously granddad's taking his grandchild, went and looked at all the exhibitions and basically just sat down, and that's it. And it's sad, but at the same time, lovely, yeah. Also, the thought of walking around museums and things with nobody else in it is quite exciting,
right?
Because she does that. She goes behind the scenes.
Yeah, and there's nobody to tell you. No
exactly.
Touching.
But she's very good. She doesn't open any of the things up, so nothing gets destroyed with anything. But there is a scene with rats. Just to warn you, obviously, if humans were to disappear one way or another, animals and vegetation and things like that would take over. And there is a bit where basically the rats have taken over the supermarket and started eating all the people that and the food and stuff like that, which is great because that's a natural way of
cycle of life.
Exactly. But obviously she's not dead.
Great.
And they kind of see her and think, oh, this is new.
This is why she ran away to Inverness.
Yes, exactly. Also, there's kind of an animal element to it because she meets a dog and she kind of saves the dog, and then the dog, I think, becomes the reason that she doesn't just sit down. You know, she kind of takes care of this. And also she goes to live in a hobbit house.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she makes a decision that she's going to go and try and stay somewhere where it's like eco-friendly, that everything's set up. And as we know, at the moment that is a big thing. There's these places that you can go and they've set up things with compostable toilets and you know, all this kind of stuff, except she gets there and she discovers that it was a bit of false advertising, and it is actually joined up to your electricity and your gas, but they kid on it's all done by solar panels. So
they were scam artists and now they're dead, so they don't have to atone for their
exactly
crimes.
So instead of 7 hours out of these solar panels, she gets an hour, and that kind of a thing. So yes,
so it's interesting. It sounds like this, you know, alternate universe that could possibly be a future universe. Absolutely. Which, you know, that's what in this book as well, you don't know. So there's something that happened, the resurrection 10,000 years ago. And throughout the sort of book, you get the feeling like the pre-resurrection area was like our present or our very near future, because there's also this sort of archaeological element to it where they're looking for archives, and like one of the houses, the 6th house, is really nerdy and into all this, you know, like documentation and
that's where I would be, I think.
And history. So they have, but they're all secretive. They don't really tell each other what's up, but the feeling is that something happened, and all the sort of life on all the planets died, but then something happened and some people became necromancers and some aren't. So there's this Necrolord Prime who is both their god but also the first necromancer and also their king. It's really strange, but it feels like it's set in both an alternate universe but also a future that could happen. So there's some recognizable elements of, like, very few, not too many. But yeah, it is, for me, I love a good plot twist in any books. Like, because I read so much, sometimes I can tell what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's what I felt with this book. I thought I knew where it was going.
Yeah, because that's how they tend to go. Like, I would have loved it not going, like it taking you by surprise, which is why I love this book. So you said that you would be interested in reading this book. So let me tell you how they describe it, which I think does such a rubbish job of marketing it. So the emperor needs necromancers. The ninth necromancer needs a swordswoman. Gideon has a sword, some dirty magazines, and no more time for undead nonsense. Tamsin
Muir.
Thank you. Gideon the Ninth unveils a solar system of swordplay, cutthroat politics, and lesbian necromancers. Her characters leap off the page as skillfully animated as necromantic skeletons. The result is a heart-pounding epic science fantasy. It says nothing about what the book is about, which is good because I like that. But I feel like it's sort of emphasizing some bits which don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, like lesbian necromancers, dirty magazines. Cutthroat politics there is a little bit of, and swordplay there's a bit of, but I think like it's using this just as a marketing tactic, you know, like, oh, you'll pick this up because it'll be like something else. But I think the selling point of this is that it's unlike most of what at least I've read, and I think many people have read, and you should give it a chance. Even the cover you said looks scary.
It's scary.
And also like in a way that, I don't know, it's not the sort of book that I would have picked up otherwise. It's because I've heard really good things about it is the only reason I picked it up, and I'm glad I did.
Is it the first book by that author?
Yes, it is.
Sometimes you find if it's the first book, that's how they try and sell it.
Yeah.
And it's not until you've read it yourself that you think.
Which I think like the marketing department can sometimes do a disservice to the book, but I'm glad it found readers. I think it was like a word of mouth thing, so I'm glad that happened. But I think that it's not a book that would work for all readers because like I said, you need to be an active reader and you need to be okay with being a bit uncomfortable and not knowing what's going on. And sort of letting you going with the flow essentially, like, because it's just like a romp, it's an adventure, you're just like figuring things out, but you can't help but, you know, try and want to make sense of what's going on, and you can.
But you're learning with the character, you said.
But there is some stuff that she knows about her house that we find out later as well, because she's very not secretive, but she's obviously not saying things because it's from her perspective. So it is good in that way, you are learning it from her perspective. But I think for some people, they wouldn't be into the amount of confusion and chaos that there is, just because it's like, so it's not to dissuade, I think, people, it's just to warn people, I think, that this is not an easy book. It's not like a cozy thing that you read before bed or like a holiday read. You need to like, I think it pays off, like I think it's worth the effort, but not everyone. You need to
invest in it, then you need to kind of
and you need to like, and it's a thick book as well. It's like 450 pages, so it's not thickest, but I think it's worth it. But I think if you don't get even the tone of it, I think some people just won't, you know, it's irreverent and it's playful. Like even when it's talking about death, there's a lot of jokes. So some people might not be into it. I, for sure, would recommend it though. So that gives you an insight into my strange brain. What about your book?
So it's, from the cover, you would not know what this book is about. And it's called Last One at the Party. And you don't understand what that means until like really near the end. And from the cover, you would not know that it's about the end of the world.
No, absolutely.
But in the back it says, December 2023, the human race has fought a deadly virus and lost. And then it basically goes on. But in London, one woman is still alive. But even from that, you don't necessarily get what it's going. But I think it's, when you start reading it, you do kind of think, right, okay, I know what's happening here. I think as well, if you did not enjoy COVID times, this is maybe not the book for you, because it does have a lot of that and darker in it. But if you like a good story, and from somebody's perspective, if you know what I mean, it is really good. It's not one that I would have picked up myself, I don't think. It was somebody else that recommended it to me.
Oh, brilliant.
And I was like, oh yes. However, the Anthony Horowitz, everybody should read. Everybody, please read Moriarty, because it's really, really good. and the twist will just get you. Even if you know the twist is coming, you don't know what the twist is going to be until it happens.
That's excellent. I love retellings. I love reinterpretations. So you sold it to me just as soon as, like, in the beginning, Sherlock and Moriarty at that Rhinebeck Falls or whatever it is. I think, yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's very good, and it's got that whole like London Victorian vibe about it. You know, you are in that world. You do kind of get there, and you know, you're thinking, oh, right, okay, and again you kind of go, right, I kind of know what's going to happen here, this is, and oh no, I did not see that coming.
Love it.
It's a proper twist.
Fantastic.
Please read it. Anyway, I think we have certainly made me happy with our choices this time. And our next episode is dropping on the 6th of July, and the challenge is genre mashup.
Dun, dun, dun.
Neither of us quite know what we're going to do with that, but I think we've plenty of ideas.
Yeah.
So please listen in to see if you think you agree with our choices, and as usual, if you've got anything that you would like to suggest, feel free.
See you next time.
Bye.